Good morning, Rick. How are you?
Good morning, Keith. I'm fine. How about yourself?
Great. So great to see you. I'm glad you had some time to spend with your son, his wife, and your granddaughter.
Thank you. It was a wonderful time, as it always is. I just love being with them.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I thought we'd do a couple podcasts today, and the first one is going to be titled "Job Experiences Can Help You Grow or Suffer. The choice is yours." So, so I want to share with you about some of my jobs and what I learned from them, and how they really helped me. Uh, they became spiritual experiences, not in the moment, but down the road they did. And I just want to share a few of those, and hopefully, our listeners will find value in what's shared today. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was having a conversation with one of my friends who has four children. And they were telling me about what the children were experiencing in school. And I talked about a lot of the experiences that I've had with jobs and some of the valuable lessons that I learned from them. So I'll start with the first job. And it really helped me see a side of myself that that I didn't want to see, like I didn't want to believe that was there. So here's the first one. I worked at a restaurant called the Dutch Pancake House back in Memphis, Tennessee. I got the job at 15. And the reason that I took the job at 15 and was eager to work was to really escape my home, because my stepfather was, for me, was challenging to live with. And a couple interesting things from that experiences in the South is pretty religious. So when people, at least the where I grew up, people ask you three questions, and I'll tell you two of the questions. The first question is, uh, where do you work? And the second question is, what church do you go to? I mean, those if the first question they'll let you pass on, but not the second. Uh, so if you're not going to church, then you are doomed. Your soul is forever doomed. So we went to church 6 or 7 days I mean 6 or 7 days a week, Rick. I mean every day we were in church.
Wow.
And as a kid, some people like that's fantastic. Well, for me, I was like that was tough. And I learned more from the way that my mom lived, and which was a life that was full of being open-hearted, contributing to others, being kind. I learned more from that than I did from, that experience. Some people are different, but that was my experience. So when I got the job at 15 as a busboy, the guy asked me, he said, Keith, I'm assuming that you can't work Sundays. I'm like, why would you make that assumption? And he's like, well, it's a church day. I'm like, dude, schedule me for every Sunday. We started church. We started church from 7:30 in the morning, and we didn't get home to 10 p.m.
Oh God.
And
Oh
so I was
man.
like, no, schedule me every Sunday. So, that was the only thing that's going to get me out of that, Rick. So that's one funny story. But the main story that I got from that experience that I got from that really helped me really look at myself and my behavior if I'm not careful is that after going from busboy to dishwasher in very short time, I became a cook, 16-year-old cook at the restaurant. And let me tell you, I had some skills. You wouldn't know it now, Rick, but I had some skills back in the day. I loved it. And I had got a buddy who was the manager of our basketball team a job there. And at the restaurant, they allowed you to order anything off the menu. And as an employee, you get 50% off the cost. And one of my friends came in there and he put in the order. I made him a burger. He just wanted a burger and fries. So I made him a burger. But I put cheese on the burger. And he didn't ask for the cheese or even put it on the order, but I put it on there. I'm like, the cheese is 30 cents, it's 15 cents, it's going to cost. Let me do that. So the ownership had changed, and the manager came to me and said, hey, Keith, I want to talk to you about this order that you put in for Lewis. I was like, what about it? And he said, you put cheese on his burger, but he didn't order it. I said, yeah, I must have read it wrong or anything like that. Not true. I read it perfectly. I was just trying to hook up my friend. And he said, Keith, you know that's stealing, don't you?
Yeah, man.
Man, Rick, I was so upset
Mm.
with him, but more importantly, I was upset with myself because while it was only 15 cents, it was still theft.
Mm.
I learned a valuable lesson that day about, asking people and not taking without permission and just all those things. I was 16 years old, but I got that lesson. And from that point on, I started to live my life in a very different way as related to taking things that aren't yours. I'm very conscious of that. It hurt in a moment because I had this elevated view of myself and how I was honest and hardworking and all those things. And those things were true in most situations. But in this situation, that behavior didn't come through.
Mm.
And for the longest time, I created a narrative about this manager, about how, he was wrong and he shouldn't have confronted me like that. And he should have accepted my reason that it was just a mistake and, an oversight. But that's not what it was. Like I was intentional about what I did and I couldn't own it. So I
Mm.
learned a lot about that. And the manager's name happened to be Lewis too. And so I think about that and I'm just like, I'm grateful for that lesson because that may have saved me some suffering down the road for something that was more egregious. The second job that I got was I worked at a grocery store and I bagged groceries and I took people's groceries out. And in the South, when you take people's groceries out, they tip you. And I remember all kinds of experiences of getting tips. I remember the people that would have like, 2 carloads of groceries, and you walk in that humidity in Tennessee or in the rain, and they're placing a dime in your hand. Like a good tip was 50 cents. A great tip was $1.
Mm.
So people say to me whenever I go places, like, man, Keith, you're a generous tipper. I'm like, because I lived it. Like the tips matter.
Mm.
And so if I go to a hotel and the housekeeper, or housekeeping cleans my room, there's $20 a day for every day that I stay. And because I'm so grateful that they do that, and that was foreign to a lot of my friends, and just like my mom for a short period of time worked as a domestic, and it was tough work, and plus I worked at this grocery store. So when people put a dime in my hand, I felt like ungrateful, man. I was like, "What? Like, are you serious?" But and then there would be people that would come in and they would really see me. Like I just wasn't the bag boy. They saw me. I remember this couple that were the Fultons, and they were fluent, and they would see me and they would ask me things, and they wouldn't see me for another 2 weeks when they came back in grocery shopping, and they would follow up on conversations that we had before.
Mm.
Like it was, I saw that piece and I was like, I want to be like that. I want to make other people feel that way. I
Mm.
felt value. They took interest in me. And it wasn't soon after that I found what was motivating me at the grocery store, and it was part of it was doing a good job. I'm very particular about how you bag groceries and all these things, kind of obsessive compulsive about it. But I was also compulsive about like who I would bag groceries for, like looking at them to see like they're probably a good tipper. So we were like really kind of fight me, myself, and the other, bag boys would fight for that particular customer. And then
Mhm.
after a while, you would have favorites, and they would ask for you specifically. Well, one day, after being hired there, I noticed that there was this African American lady who would come in and she would have all these groceries and she would be in a uniform which seemed to give the impression that she was a housekeeper, and you'd bag all these groceries, you take them out, and she would never tip you, and people started avoiding her,
Mm.
and stuff like that. And I it was probably after my first year. I was there for like 2.5 years. I just didn't feel good about it, like I was only doing good if I was being compensated for it. And I never thought about whether or not this person, I mean, she wasn't spending her own money. She was spending, her employer's money. She had no right to tip us, but none of that was a consideration then. And so that really informed, like when I came to ToBeRe, like I started to, when I founded ToBeRe, I made it never about the money. Like it wasn't about whether somebody could, I didn't take a new member to ToBeRe because we needed the money. We accepted people into To Be Read because they got the idea of community. They got the idea of working on themselves. And if we do this on an individual level, then when we come together collectively, we can really create this amazing space where everyone is contributing to each other. and being service oriented. Like that's why, I found it to be re, it wasn't about the money. And so I learned a valuable lesson about that. And so now I have gotten to the point with a lot of practice over the years of not needing to be compensated for everything that I do and not looking at people, in that way. That was a valuable lesson to me of that. And I was disappointed in myself for that first year of avoiding this particular customer. Really disappointed. And then the last thing that I'll share was I worked for a moving company. And this guy really taught me a valuable lesson too. His name was Clay. And at the moving company, they paid really well compared to what minimum wage was at the job at the time. And when I got there, I really needed the job because I was 17 years old, and I had an apartment and I needed to afford, the rent. And my mom, working as a domestic, was trying to help me out the best way she can, but I really needed this job. But I was going off to the military and I really didn't want to work that hard. So I came in and I told the guy Clay that, hey, I got to have Tuesdays and Thursdays off because I'm, taking college courses at the local university here, preparing to go into college, which wasn't true. But I wanted some flexibility on the days that I wanted to work. And whenever rent was coming up due, I wanted to work a lot. And so this went on for a while. And Clay started to notice without telling me that I would change my off days that I was at school or in the lab. So it would normally I told him it was Tuesday and Thursday, but then it became Monday if I wanted a 3-day weekend, or it became Friday. So after about 3 months of this, I came in one day. It was close to the end of the month, so I needed money for rent. And Clay's handing out all the job assignments of where people are going to go out and help, load or unload moving trucks for people that were moving in Memphis. And I said, "Hey Clay, you gave out all the assignments today. I didn't get one." Oh, he said, "Hey Keith, I'm so glad you're here. I want to talk to you about that." I said, "Okay, what's going on?" He said, "You know what? Your school is such a priority. I know you got lab every day. At first it was Tuesday and Thursday. Now it's a different day. We don't want to get in the way of your education. So we got your last paycheck up front."
Uh,
Rick, I want to learn so much about not giving my best at work. Like,
hmm.
like that was a valuable, and didn't happen like that at the previous two jobs, but at this job, I'm trying to cut corners. I'm trying to get over, and I walked out that day obviously disappointed because I had a rent deficit that I needed to try to solve. But I also walked in there like, man, that lesson will not be forgotten. In the moment, I got that lesson. So I think those job experiences have really shaped the way that I show up. I mean, hence volunteering at Mayo Clinic, and during a time where I wasn't, getting paid. Obviously, that's the definition of volunteering, but not being upset about not getting paid was really really valuable to me. Taking something that wasn't mine with the first job, working in the restaurant, and then lastly, judging people and what I will contribute or not contribute to people based on what they give me. Those are some incredible lessons for me, Rick. So I'll just pause there and just kind of, have you share a few comments.
No, I don't think I have anything to add to any of those beautiful stories and the lessons that you learned from each of them. Just one little quick comment, and the one I think I enjoyed the most was the church story. And the thing that brought this home to me about the lesson was the idea that here you are giving up your Sunday, where you would expect to go and hear stories about why you should do things a certain way and why it's in your interest and why God wants you to do a certain thing in a certain way and that sort of stuff. You gave all of that up. You went to your work, and then you got this huge message that would have been the same message on the Sunday church, but you got it in real time and you got it as an experience as opposed to someone telling you what to do and telling you the right way to behave and telling you what the lesson was. Those things never work. And I think the point of all three of your stories about work is that it's experience that teaches us, right? It's the experience of being wrong, of being embarrassed, of being ungrateful, of being judging. That experience teaches us how to change if we're mindful of wanting to change and we're mindful of our own behavior. And it also teaches us in a very strong way what we need to do for ourselves without anyone telling us without anyone giving us any advice, lecturing us, or telling us this is the way. No, you learn that on your own through getting a two by four over the head.
Yeah,
I
and
love that. It's great. That's
yeah,
that's the way it's beautiful stories. I really appreciate hearing them.
exactly, Rick. It's those kind of lessons and those experiences that you become really grateful for if you're open and conscious. Like I'm sure I was told this many times before, but once I experienced it in a way that really impacted my ego, it became super real for me. And you're right. I wouldn't have gotten that message, even if it was told to me, would not have resonated as deeply to shift my behavior and my mindset moving forward had it been delivered, for example, at church. Michael Singer talks about, hey, if you were a kid and your parents got divorced, and you're another person and your parents didn't get divorced, the person who didn't have divorced parents, you got gypped. Like you didn't have that experience. Like you know what I'm saying? If you had a job and you didn't get fired
Yeah.
or in trouble, and the other person just had, they got promoted everywhere they go, they got gypped. Like it's those experiences that help you really develop the right footing and the right form and how to move and flow with life. When I was learning how to box, the guy would keep telling me, Keith, make sure you keep your hands up. I'm like, they are up. And then I got hit in the face. He never had to tell me again to keep my hands up. And once I experienced it, you know what I'm saying? So, and that's people. I mean, the personal mind, and I tell people this all the time where they get down on themselves and things like that. They say something like, I'm going to do this, or I'm just going to end this, or whatever it is they're doing, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a work situation, whatever. I'm like, why are you listening to your mind? If it's anything like mine, it gives horrible advice. Like I horrible. I would have quit a million jobs. I would have like, cursed people out and,
Mhm.
been retaliatory. Horrible advice. Don't listen to that. Listen to somebody who's got themselves together. And hopefully it's you, but you need to work on yourself to get there, Rick. So thank you so much, Rick. I love you.
I love you, Keith. Great stories, man. I'm going to think about those all day today. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.